Hi guys, this is Miss Knight again. This is the third and final part of Chapter 4 of Lord of the Flies, Painted Faces and Long Hair. We're picking up during the fight between Ralph and Jack about letting the fire go out, and it's right before Jack punches Piggy. Piggy began again. "You didn't ought to have let that fire go out. You said you'd keep the smoke going." This from Piggy, and the wails of agreement from some of the hunters drove Jack to violence. The bolting look came into his blue eyes. He took a step, and able at last to hit someone, struck his fist into Piggy's stomach. Piggy sat down with a grunt. Jack stood over him. His voice was vicious with humiliation. "You would you, fatty?" Ralph made a step forward, and Jack smacked Piggy's head. Piggy's glasses flew off and tinkled on the rocks. Piggy cried out in terror, "My specs!" He went crouching and feeling over the rocks, but Simon, who got there first, found them for him. Passions beat about Simon on the mountain top with awful wings. One side's broken. Two things to note here. One, if you are one of the students who's doing Simon for your character project, definitely pay attention to that line and consider Simon's kind of mental state here and in general. Additionally, the moment of Piggy's glasses breaking, especially because of Jack hitting him, is a really important symbolic moment. Consider what else on the island with the boys is breaking or falling apart. Piggy grabbed and put on the glasses. He looked malevolently at Jack. "I got to have them specs. Now I only got one eye. Just you wait." Jack made a move towards Piggy, who scrambled away till a great rock lay between them. He thrust his head over the top and glared at Jack through one flashing glass. "Now I only got one eye. Just you wait." Jack mimicked the whine and scrabble. "Just you wait. Yeah." Piggy and the parody were so funny that the hunters began to laugh. Jack felt encouraged. He went on scrambling, and the laughter rose to a gale of hysteria. Unwillingly, Ralph felt his lips twitch. He was angry with himself for giving way, so even Ralph is laughing at this a little bit. He muttered, "That was a dirty trick." Jack broke out of his gyration and stood facing Ralph. His words came in a shout. All right. He looked at Ralph, at Piggy, at the hunters, at Ralph. "I'm sorry. About the fire, I mean. There. He drew himself up. "I apologize." The buzz from the hunters was one of admiration at this handsome behavior. Clearly they were of the opinion that Jack had done the decent thing, had put himself in the right by his generous apology, and Ralph, obscurely, in the wrong. They waited for an appropriately decent answer. Yet Ralph's throat refused to pass one. He resented, as an addition to Jack's misbehavior, this verbal trick. So here we see Jack getting really political. He makes this apology, which is he's not actually sorry for his behavior, but he understands that it's something that will make the other boys respect him and look up to him, and something that will kind of force Ralph to make up. And additionally, his choice to punch Piggy when the one he was mad at and arguing with was Ralph is also strategic. Yes, Piggy annoys him, but he also identifies Piggy as the outsider to the group. If he had punched Ralph, that would have been much more chaotic. Ralph is their chief. They still respect him. The boys would have been forced to make a choice between the two, but he could safely attack Piggy and keep and even increase the admiration and respect of the other boys. So he's very much a politician. The fire was dead. The ship was gone. Could they not see? Anger instead of decency passed his throat. That was a dirty trick. They were silent on the mountaintop, while the opaque look appeared in Jack's eyes and passed away. Ralph's final word was an ungracious mutter. "All right, light the fire." With some positive action before them, a little of the tension died. Ralph said no more, did nothing, stood looking down at the ashes round his feet. Jack was loud and active. He gave orders, sang, whistled, threw remarks at the silent Ralph, remarks that did not need an answer, and therefore could not invite a snub. And still Ralph was silent. No one, not even Jack, would ask him to move, and in the end they had to build the fire 3 yards away, and in a place not really as convenient. So Ralph asserted his chieftainship, and could not have chosen a better way if he had thought for days. Against this weapon, so indefinable and so effective, Jack was powerless and raged without knowing why. By the time the pile was built, they were on different sides of a high barrier. So we see this nonviolent resistance and silent resistance by Ralph, and it's really effective. Jack doesn't really know what to do. He's reasserted his chieftainship, but he has also cemented this division between him and Jack, which is going to continue to cause a lot of problems for him. When they had dealt with the fire, another crisis arose. Jack had no means of lighting it. Then, to his surprise, Ralph went to Piggy and took the glasses from him. Not even Ralph knew how a link between him and Jack had been snapped and fastened elsewhere. "I'll bring him back. I'll come too." Piggy stood behind him, islanded in a sea of meaningless color, while Ralph knelt and focused the glossy spot. Instantly, the fire was alight. Piggy held out his hands and grabbed the glasses back. Before these fantastically attractive flowers of violet and red and yellow, unkindness melted away. They became a circle of boys round a campfire, and even Piggy and Ralph were half drawn in. Soon, some of the boys were rushing down the slope for more wood, while Jack hacked the pig. They tried holding the whole carcass on a stake over the fire, but the stake burnt more quickly than the pig roasted. In the end, they skewered bits of meat on branches and held them in the flames. Even then, almost as much boy was roasted as meat. Ralph's mouth watered. He meant to refuse meat, but his past diet of fruit and nuts, with an odd crab or fish, gave him too little resistance. He accepted a piece of half-raw meat and gnawed it like a wolf. Piggy spoke, also dribbling. "Aren't I having none?" Jack had meant to leave him in doubt as an assertion of power, but Piggy, by advertising his omission, made more cruelty necessary. "You didn't hunt." "No more did Ralph," said Piggy wetly, "nor Simon," he amplified. "There isn't much more than half-porth of meat in a crab." It's a slang for a halfpenny, just like a small amount of meat. Ralph stirred uneasily. Simon, sitting between the twins and Piggy, wiped his mouth and shoved his piece of meat over the rocks to Piggy, who grabbed it. The twins giggled, and Simon lowered his face in shame. Then Jack leapt to his feet, slashed off a great hunk of meat, and flung it down at Simon's feet. "Eat, damn you!" He glared at Simon. "Take it!" He spun on his heel, center of a bewildered circle of boys. "I got you meat!" Numberless and inexpressible frustrations combined to make his rage elemental and awe-inspiring. "I painted my face. I stole up. Now you eat, all of you, and I—" Slowly, the silence on the mountain-top deepened till the click of the fire and the soft hiss of roasting meat could be heard clearly. Jack looked round for understanding, but found only respect. Ralph stood among the ashes of the signal fire, his hands full of meat, saying nothing. Then at last Maurice broke the silence. He changed the subject to the only one that could bring the majority of them together. "Where did you find the pig?" Ralph pointed down the unfriendly side. They were there, by the sea. Roger pointed down the unfriendly side. They were there, by the sea. Jack, recovering, could not bear to have his story told. He broke in quickly. "We spread round. I crept on hands and knees. The spears fell out because they hadn't barbs on. The pigs ran away and made an awful noise. It turned back and ran into the circle, bleeding. All the boys were talking at once, relieved and excited. We closed in. The first blow had paralyzed its hindquarters, so then the circle could come close in, and beat and beat. I cut the pig's throat." The twins, still sharing their identical grin, jumped up and ran round each other. Then the rest joined in, making pig-dying noises and shouting. "One for his knob! Give him a fourth penny one!" Then Maurice pretended to be the pig and ran squealing into the center, and the hunters, circling, still pretended to beat him. As they danced, they sang, "Kill the pig! Cut her throat! Bash her in!" Ralph watched them, envious and resentful. Not till they flagged and the chant died away did he speak. "I'm calling an assembly." One by one they halted and stood watching him. With the conch, "I'm calling a meeting even if we have to go on in the dark. Down on the platform. When I blow it. Now." He turned away and walked off, down the mountain. So here we see Ralph continuing to assert his authority as their chief. He's calling them literally down to the platform, calling a meeting as he's done before. But metaphorically, he's also calling them back to civilization. They're pretending to hunt Maurice. They're chanting this really alarming chant. They're dancing around a fire. This is Ralph's way of saying, we got to bring our focus back. We've got to focus on getting rescued. We've got to keep up our civilized ways. We have to remember what it means to be human. We can't descend into this animalistic behavior.